Nick was very ignorant. If you're not doing it right, you know, and sometimes he would grab the wheel and he's like, no, do it this and that. And, you know, sometimes I would get so upset, like, yo, bro, could you chill? Could you just take it easy on me? She's stepping over all her obstacles. With her kings and queens, she's short and spicy, short and spicy. It's the love of God, she's holding her own. Welcome back to Short and Spicy Nikks. This is your girl Nikki speaking. How you guys doing today? Well, before we get into this video, guys, I want you guys to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified of new uploads and live stream. Now, I'm going to do a story time, and this is just giving you a little insight on what inspired me to start driving. I was speaking to my son just now while taking him to the dermatologist because he battles with a neurological disease called psoriasis. So he gets lesions on his skin, dry patches, and it was taking over his whole body at one point. In some of our videos, you'll see on the back of his neck and everything. And I think he wants to speak about it. It's also suppressed his self-esteem. And I was just driving and I started to talk to him about, you know, my experience with him and his siblings when they were younger. So it inspired me to do this video and speak on a lot of the things that us single mothers go through when we just start having children. I had 2 children at the time, and I had my G1, that's the learner's license that they call it here in Canada. A friend of his father took me to go get it, and I was so excited when I got it. I only had 1 child at that time. When you get your G1 in Canada, you have 5 years to get the complete license. That is your G2, which is the driving part of it. The G1 is the learners. G2 is the driving part, where you go and, you know, after getting all your lessons, whichever way you choose, you go and you get tested and all of that stuff, and then you're granted the G2 if you pass the test. And then the last level is the G. So I had only had my G1, and it was almost the 5 years that was going to expire. It was coming down, and not only that, I had 2 children. And I said, listen, I'm tired of taking the bus. It is stressful being a single mother and taking the bus, having no one there to help you with your children. Wherever you have to go, you have to wait at the bus stop, rain, snow, sunshine, it doesn't matter. And waiting for long periods of time as well. But not only that, if you ever know how hard it is to put a stroller on a bus, a public bus, especially when that bus is ramsacked full.
Bruh.
And while that bus is moving and that stroller with wheels is on there, sometimes you may even forget to put down the safety on the wheels. But forget about that. Let's talk about getting on that bus with the stroller. And I was letting my son know that how I would do it when I'm getting on, because no one wants to help you. Sometimes the bus driver will get off the bus and assist a mother. Sometimes they don't. So what I would do, I was demonstrating to him. I would take the stroller with my child in there. It's like how I'm sitting right here. This would be my child sitting, and this is the back of the stroller. I would take my hand and hold the stroller. That was my son calling me because they're about to do the blood work, and I'm his moral support. Okay? When it's blood work time, right? So, like I was saying, Where was I? Yes, I would hold the stroller from the back, but I would make sure my child who's in the stroller is facing me. And I would hold the stroller, and the front of the stroller where their feet are, I would put that part on my shin, this part, both sides, on, and make sure the stroller and my child is on me. And then I would proceed to bring the stroller with the weight and step up. And once I get one foot up, good enough, I would put the stroller on the top of where those stairs are. Never on the stairs. I'll put it up on that leveled part of the bus. And that is how I would put the stroller on. And sometimes it's the little, the little, I don't know, remember what you call those little strollers, but those ones are easier. But the big stroller for the winter time with the big wheels, those were the challenging one. So that's how I would do it. But I said, you know what? I have 2 children. I'm tired of taking the bus. And I realized that my G1 and the years were going by. This was like 2-3 years in or so. And I just started going to driving school. And I would go and do driving lessons like 2 or 3 times out of the week. Bring my children to school, whatever. I don't remember who at the time was watching my child, because at that time I lived by myself. Yeah, when I was getting driving lessons, right? And I would take them to school, and in the evening time, I never forget Nick. I forgot Nick's last name, and I forgot his background, but it was Nick. His name was Nick. That was my driving instructor that I would get driving lessons from. And Nick was very ignorant. If you're not doing it right, when you're going into a driving school vehicle, you're at the wheel, but the instructor on his part, he also has the brakes to stop, if you're doing something. And sometimes he would grab the wheel and he's like, no, do it this and that. And, sometimes I would get so upset, like, yo, bro, could you chill? Could you just take it easy on me? It was bittersweet. And I remember while doing that, getting my driving lesson, I had heard about a program in this area of Toronto that was going on. Jane and Finch, they were doing an internship. And I don't remember how I heard about it, but it was myself and my cousin and a friend of mine named Delia, I'll call her Peaches, right? That went to that program, and they paid you for coming to the program. Every day that you make it to the program, you would get $50 for showing up. And I made sure I never missed one day for that program. And I was determined. I said, this is to buy my car. I had bought a car before, my children's father and I, but that was when he was living with me and I only had one child, my first one, and I was pregnant with my second. And that was the first car I bought. Basically, it was my money off of my MasterCard. But he would take the car and he would just have the car for himself, just doing what he wants to do, have the car driving all over the place, doing all sorts of stuff. Even when he got arrested and he was incarcerated, the car was down in the parking spot that was there for it, where we lived at the time, and it was just there until I had it sent over to my aunt, who said she'll keep it there, and tickets were all sorts of things. So that wasn't really my car. So this that I was saving up to buy was my actual first car. And I was determined that I was going to get my G2, my driver's license, and I was going to buy my car. And every time I would go to that internship where it's teaching you, it would teach us stuff that I already knew because I finished high school. And there were kids, it was from the age of say 16 to a certain age, was what age was the cutoff. So I made it into the bracket, and you would get an opportunity to get a job after that internship was over. So every time I get that money, I would make sure that I had money to take the bus to drive, I think it was an hour and a half, 2 hours from where I live, to go to Jane and Finch on the bus every morning. I got my children in daycare at that time, and I would just make sure I take them to daycare, and then I'm gone to the internship. And after the internship that day, sometimes I would even have my driving instructor come and meet me there in Jane and Finch and go get my 45 minutes worth of driving lessons. And trust me, after that, the day was scheduled for me to go and do my test, and it was my only chance that I had. If I failed this driving test, I would have to start all over again, because the 5 years was coming up for me to have the G1 in order to get my G2. That was the 5-year limit. So I had to pass that test, and I remember I was so nervous, and we drove 2.5 to 3 hours because it was in the same city that my children's father was incarcerated for that long period of time. The first time he got sentenced for 10 years or whatever, and it was in the same city in Kingston that my driving instructor got the test booked. And the drive, I had a headache the whole time, and I remember when I went, I just made sure that I did everything that I learned from the instructor. And when I came back and I parked, and that person from the ministry, it wasn't the instructor that brought me to do the test, it was a person from the ministry that came to bring me to do the test. And we used the car that the instructor drove us. It was like 4 of us, 3 or 4 of us that went up, I can't remember, and we used his vehicle, and it was nerve-wracking. But when we came back and I parked and he marked it and I looked on it, I passed my first try, and I passed, and I just felt so relieved. And after that, I bought my vehicle. I bought a green Hyundai Accent that I would drive. I would take my children to daycare. I got a job after the internship working as an administrative assistant, and it just felt so good. I would drive that same Hyundai Accent, who was having transition problem, all of that stuff, to go to the bus stop to meet the bus, John Howard, to take us to go see their father in Kingston. And when we were able to get trailers, that's another story time. If you want to hear more on that, comment in the comment section, and I will give you some more. Being independent and able to take my children wherever we needed to go. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, hit the notification bell so you can be notified of new uploads and live stream. Also subscribe if you're a first-time viewer. And remember, we are blessed and highly favored.